This CACFP Meal Pattern webinar on the Food Buying Guide was presented on February 25, 2020 to a center sponsor audience. The version you are currently viewing has been edited and shortened from the original.
All right, let's get started. Hello and welcome to the CACFP Meal Pattern webinar on the Food Buying Guide. This training was funded by the USDA. My name is Shirley Wu and I am a child nutrition specialist. Today, I will be guiding you through the functions available in the electronic food buying guide. Today, we will be quickly looking at our learning objectives. Then we will have a short review of what it means to credit food in all child nutrition programs before we get into the meat of our webinar, which is the food buying guide. The food buying guide has multiple tools, and we will go over pretty much all of the main functions, including the food item search, the Exhibit A grains tool, the recipe analysis workbook, that's also known as the RAW, and the food buying guide calculator. At the end of the session, we will briefly go over all the appendices that are available. So after you're done with the webinar today, our goal is for you to understand the purpose of the food buying guide and know what functions are available from the electronic version of the food buying guide. Before we get to the food buying guide though, you first have to understand why food crediting is important to not just CACFP, but all child nutrition programs. Food crediting is essential because you have to know whether the meals and snacks that you serve are meeting the minimum serving sizes for the age groups you are serving. Your CACFP meal pattern is not only about serving the appropriate and creditable foods, but serving them with at least the minimum serving sizes. To help support your meal pattern claims, you will always want to save supporting documentation on serving sizes and portion sizes. Sometimes food crediting amounts are not obvious. If you buy 1 pound of meat from your vendor, most of the time that will not translate to 1 pound of creditable meat. This is why you need to understand the fundamentals of portion sizing. To do that, we start with our meal pattern chart. It is always a good idea to be familiar with our meal pattern chart and refer to it for information on meal pattern crediting. Here is a clipped version of our chart for children with only the lunch and supper meals. If you wanted to serve lunch to a 3 to 5-year-old, you will want to check the column with the right age group and make sure that you have at least 6 ounces of fluid milk, 1.5 ounces of lean meats or meat alternates, a 1/4 cup of vegetables, and a 1/4 cup of fruits, and a half serving of grains. You might notice that the meat and meat alternates have a longer list of items. This is because different meat alternates credit differently due to different nutrient composition. This means that items like tofu will need 3.3 ounces instead of 1.5 ounce, or 3/8 cup in order to meet minimum portion sizes. Once you know the amount to serve, you might wonder if you are meeting minimum portion sizes with the meals that you are serving. Most of the time, it's fairly easy to tell if you are meeting minimum portion sizes for fruits, vegetables, and milk components. With fruits and vegetables, it typically credits based on the volume served. A 1/4 cup of fruit will meet a 1/4 cup of the fruit component. There are some exceptions, with leafy greens crediting for only half of the volume that's served. So that means if you serve 1 cup of spinach, it's only going to credit for half a cup of the vegetable component. Dried fruits and vegetables, on the other hand, credit for twice the volume served, where a 1/4 cup of raisins will credit for a half cup of fruits. However, the components that are a little harder to credit include the grains and meat alternates. And this is because there are items where the entire volume or weight of the product are not always creditable for CACFP or other child nutrition programs. For the grains component, the creditable portion of the grain item will only include the whole grains, enriched grains, bran, and germ. For the meat alternate component, the creditable portion of the item will only contain cooked lean meats. Or if it is a meat alternate, there is going to be a formula to calculate how much of that item will be needed to meet minimum portion sizes. So if you're a little confused, let's take a look at a few examples, first for the grains, so you can kind of take a look and see what we mean. So here we have a muffin. If you were creating a muffin from scratch, you would know exactly how much grains are in each muffin because your recipe will indicate the weight of the grain ingredients. For example, here you would credit your grains component by ignoring all of the other non-grain ingredients like eggs, milk, sugar, vegetable oils, carrots, raisins, and spices. So taking the creditable grains only, you would be able to calculate how much grains are in each muffin. However, what if you weren't making your own muffin? How would you be able to tell how much of the muffin you purchased was grains and how much was other ingredients like eggs, milk, and sugar? For grains, we have something called Exhibit A. This is a chart that provides the serving size that is required for common grain items that are served. The chart provides both ounce equivalents, which you can currently use and will be required starting October 1st, 2021, or you can use minimum serving size portions, which you can currently use, but you can't use it after October 1st, 2021. So ounce equivalents and minimum serving sizes are fairly similar, and you can compare the two charts and see that ounce equivalents is barely larger for most grain items. So Exhibit A takes common grain items and provides an estimate for the amount of grain items that are in the item by weight. So we're going to go to the second page of Exhibit A, and let's say we wanted to buy some muffins at the store and serve it. And so what we're going to do is take a look at muffins under Group D on Exhibit A, and then you're going to look at either the ounce equivalents or the minimum serving size columns and see that 1 ounce equivalent of the grains component would require 55 grams or 2.0 ounces by weight of muffins. If you were using the minimum serving size instead of ounce equivalents, you would get 1 serving for 50 grams of muffin. The reason why you would need 50 grams weight for 1 serving is because this total weight also includes the eggs, the oil, the sugar, and the milk, all those not creditable grain components. So this total weight takes all of that into account. So that's grains. What about meats then? So with meat and meat alternate components, you have items like this chicken. With almost all meats, when you credit the meat, 1 ounce will generally not equal 1 ounce of creditable meat unless you're buying completely lean, fully cooked meats. Instead, 1 ounce of meat that is purchased will likely equal less than 1 ounce of creditable meat because you have to take into account the bones and the cartilage, the skin, and also the fat. With non-cooked foods, you also have to account for moisture loss. With the meat component, only the lean cooked meat can be counted towards the creditable meat component. So knowing what we know now about crediting the grains and the meat and meat alternate components, does this mean that you would need to weigh all of your meals before you serve it? Oh no. Weighing all foods is not a requirement, although you can choose to do so. It would be very tedious though. What we use instead is the food buying guide, which you all signed up to learn today. The food buying guide helps all child nutrition programs determine the creditable portions, which is also known as yield for common foods served. This guide is our main source of crediting for CACFP and all other child nutrition programs. Way back when, this used to be a physical folder with listings of different foods and information on their typical serving sizes and yields. The yield data that is provided is collected from averages of food that have been measured by USDA. Now it has been converted into an electronic version that is searchable, so hooray, and can be accessed accessed either through your web browser or through a mobile app. We will look at the internet version today since it has all of the available functions. Okay, so here we are with our food buying guide. So we are going to start at the main page, and it will ask you to either log in or create a profile. You can also log in as a guest user. However, if you do that, you might notice that there are some areas you can't access, like the recipe analysis workbook. If you wanted to save any of the information in the food buying guide for easy access, you will need to have a login. So we're going to use my login today. And that way you can see all of the available functions. It is easy to create an account. And so there's that create account button right there, right underneath login with PIV. And if you needed to create an account, you can just answer a few questions, and typically you will get access within a day. So once you log in, whether as a guest or with a user ID, you will get to your home page. Note that you can navigate using either those green tabs at the top here, which you could see my cursor going by, or you can use the different buttons that's available here on the home page. So we have 4 different tools that we will be using today or going through today, and I will explain the purpose for each tool and how it can help you manage your menus. So let's go to the food item search first. You can click on the food item search button, or you can also go into the tools tab, or actually the food items tab, and then do search. Once you're here, the first thing you're going to want to do is to go do a keyword search. But if you wanted to just search through the entire component, what you can do is to just click on the component. Let's say we're going to take a look at our meat alternate component, do search, and what it's going to do is give you multiple pages of all of the different meat and meat alternate items that are creditable for CACFP and all other child nutrition programs. And so this can be a fun way to discover different creditable items for your different food components if you're searching for inspiration. Most of the time though, this is pretty hard to dig through. So if what you wanted to do is to search for a specific item, what I would recommend doing is to take a look at the keyword search. So for example, let's say you purchased some chicken tenders and you're wondering how to credit it. So you're going to want to type in chicken. And when you type in chicken, you notice that it kind of narrows things down for you, but you're still getting quite a lot of different results. And so if you want to be a little more specific, you can go ahead and type in tenders. And it doesn't matter whether you do it before chicken or after chicken, the order doesn't matter. And so after you type in chicken tenders, you get 2 results instead. So that really helps us narrow things down. And so with these 2 results, you can see that they look fairly similar. The only difference really is under their serving sizes. One is for 1 ounce cooked poultry and the other one is for 1.5 ounce cooked poultry. And so this can be helpful so you don't have to do quite as many calculations if what you want is the 1.5 ounce portions. But if you click into both of these entries, you'll notice that they're both pretty much the same. So let's click on chicken boneless for 1 ounce servings. So in each food item detailed entry, you will get the meal component it credits for up top. And I'm going to highlight this so you can see it. You're going to see the subcategories and the meal categories. This is not very important for CACFP. What does matter though for us is the purchase unit, the servings per purchase unit, the serving size per meal contribution, and also the purchase units for 100 servings. What's also kind of important is the additional information right over here. And so what you can see is that for every pound of chicken that you buy, for every purchase unit pound, you will get 11.6 servings of 1 ounce servings. And that means that if you wanted to purchase 100 servings of 1 ounce chicken portions, you would need to buy 8.7 pounds of chicken. And another way to calculate it is, let's say you have 7 pounds of chicken that you wanted to buy. You can calculate the amount of creditable portion ounce equivalents by multiplying it by 0.73. And if this is an item that you use a lot, you can go ahead and add it to your favorites. And if you wanted to print out this information, you could view it as a PDF. All right, so once you're done with it, let's go back to our page. You can go back, you can close, and this will take you back to your main search page. And so it'll also take you back to your search results. So use this tool to compare different items. So you can add this to compare. You can also compare it with another chicken item. So let's say you wanted to buy some chicken breast with skin, with bone. And so you can take a look at these different chicken breast items. And so you can see, if you have 1 ounce of cooked poultry with skin, if you click on the add here to compare, it throws this up under the section that says food items selected for comparison. And so you're going to want to check to make sure that the serving size per meal contribution is the same for each. So you're comparing like to like. And then once you're ready to do that, you can click on the compare items button. And so once that happens, it gives you a little bit more detail. And so you can see that comparing the tenders, which doesn't have skin or bones, you can get 11.6 servings of 1 ounce servings for every pound you buy, versus the chicken breasts, which have skin, which have bones. This one you would only get about 8.6 servings of 1 ounce servings for every pound. So it might be a decision that you might have to make, even though the tenders might be more expensive. You might spend more time processing the chicken breast with bones and skin. It might also be more efficient in the long run because you get more creditable portions. So when it comes to looking at food items, it's usually very helpful to do some comparisons if you're creating your menus and you're trying to figure out which one is the most efficient item for you to use. So while the food item search can be used for pretty much every single meal pattern component, what we have found is that it's most helpful for the meat alternate component in determining portion sizes. If you're trying to do this for grains, however, it's probably more useful to use another tool instead. So we're going to go to the home page again, and now we're going to go to our Exhibit A grain tool. And so we're going to click on that button. You can also see it under the Tools bar and under My Products or Enter Products. And so what the Exhibit A Grains tool does is it helps us determine if the serving size on the ingredient label meets minimum portion size requirements for your packaged grains. So think back to our Exhibit A handout. Exhibit A tells us the serving size for the common grain items out there. What this calculator does is help you make a conversion calculation and see if your packages meet minimum serving sizes for the age groups you're serving. So if you took our CACFP annual training last year, we went through the calculations to figure out whether the serving sizes for your grain items are adequate for the new ounce equivalent portions. So instead of doing all of that, now you can do this using the Exhibit A Grains tool. So let's try it out by adding a new item. So we're going to click on this green Enter Exhibit A Product button here. And what we want to do is we want to add a packaged grain item with a nutrition fact label. So what we can do is go back to our slideshow. And it looks like, there it is. And we can take a look at Cheez-It. And looking at our nutrition facts label for Cheez-Its, we will want to look at the serving size. And the serving size is 27 crackers or 30 grams. So remember, 30 grams. Let's keep that in mind, and we're going to move back to our Exhibit A's grains tool. So on our Exhibit A's grain tool, we will enter in our product name, Cheez-Its, and we're going to enter today's date. And what we're going to do under the item keyword is to figure out what type of product it's listed under for Exhibit A. So Cheez-Its are a type of crackers, so we're going to type in cracker there. And you can see both savory crackers and sweet crackers show up. So we know Cheez-Its is a savory cracker, so we're going to add that there. And then once you add that, it shows up here underneath. And what it does is it will help you calculate the serving size and the grains contribution. So by taking the serving size of 30, and we know it was grams, we're going to pick the measurement unit that was on our nutrition facts label. It automatically tells you that this is 1.25 ounce equivalent. So if this is something that you want to use in the future and you want to save this information, you could click Save here, and it tells you it's saved. And so we can go back to our list, and you can see it right there. And so what if you wanted to edit one of your items? So we have a bagel right here that we already entered before. And we're just going to click Edit right now. And what you see here is that on the serving size, it says it's 98 grams. And you can see that the grain contribution would be 3.5 for one bagel. But what if you went into your packaging and you got a new label and you saw that it was actually only 95 now? So what you would do is you would update it by putting in 95, and you can see it automatically updates to 3.25 ounce equivalents instead. And so if you were looking at this, all of these are much greater than the minimum serving size you would need to serve for CACFP for any age group. So it really doesn't matter too much, but it is nice to have an accurate account. And so what you can do is save. And so now we're going to go back to our list. And so use the Exhibit A grains tools to help you figure out whether your packaged grain item meets minimum serving size requirement. Here we're going to go and take a look at our recipe analysis workbook. This is also known as the RAW. You can see that you could create a recipe analysis workbook or take a look at any of the old ones that you've saved before. So we have fried rice with tofu here. So we're going to go and edit this recipe analysis workbook so we can take a look at an example of one that's been completed. You're always going to want to make sure that you have the recipe name, the servings per recipe, the recipe number, and the serving size completed, because it won't let you move forward without those being completed. And so what this does is it helps you credit recipes that you created and make sure that it pulls in all of the food items that are creditable and available on the food item search. And so here we have some chicken, some broccoli, some carrots, some rice. And so most of the time with fried rice with tofu, you would have tofu instead of chicken. But since we have chicken in here, we're going to update this to say that's fried rice with chicken. And then we're going to go and take a look at our meat alternate tab. And you can see that here under chicken boneless tenders, we are using 8 pounds. So we entered in 8 under quantity of ingredients. And then what it's going to do is under the meal pattern contributions, it's going to tell you that 8 pounds of chicken for 75 servings will provide you with 1 ounce equivalent. So what if instead you wanted to credit your fried rice for, 2-ounce equivalents because you're serving kids who are 6 to 18 years old. So you can play around with this. You can maybe try 12 pounds, do save, and go to meal pattern contribution. And you can see 12 pounds, it gets you to 1.75. Maybe that's not enough. So you can just keep playing with this. So this is a good tool for, if you're trying to look at your recipes, if there's something different you want to do with your recipes. And so if you had changed it to, I think it was 15 pounds, it would get you to 2.25. So if that's too much, we can say we want 13 pounds. And so there you go. So at 13 pounds, we get 2-ounce equivalent. So this is a helpful tool to kind of play around with your recipes. If you're entering any grains, for the different tabs, there's 3 different tabs, method A, B, and C. If you're using a packaged grain item, you will use method A. If you are using items in the food items list, like we're doing with brown rice, you will use method B. If you are using method C, this is only for any ingredients that you know will credit, but can't be entered in using either method A or method B. So going to our meal pattern contributions, you can see that once we have all of these items, it credits for both the vegetables, the meats, the grains, depending on, which items you've entered into the different tabs. All right, so once we're done and we're happy with all of our edits, we can either save again. It's actually going to save automatically, but we're going to go back to our raw list. And you'll see that it's updated to fried rice with chicken instead. It shows you that it was updated just right now. And you can also, save it as a PDF if this is something that you want to use for the future. All right, so the recipe analysis workbook, it isn't a recipe creator, but it does help you to credit what's already been created. Okay, so let's go back to our homepage and let's get to our very last tool that we're going to be talking about today. And so this is the Food Buying Guide Calculator, and this is the newest tool that's available. And so you can find this right above the Meet Me Alternate icon right here. Like all of the other items, you can also find it under the Tools tab under FBG Calculator. So we're just going to go from here. And you can see that it creates shopping lists for you. And so shopping lists can be helpful if you use a lot of the same items every single week. This can be something that you just set up and print out each week and then just update for the portions or the amounts that you need to buy. And so let's create a shopping list. And so we're going to go with Shirley's shopping list. And we're going to say that it's for today. And let's say that we want to buy some chicken. So chicken's been on our mind quite a bit today, so chicken tenders. And so you notice that it has all of these food items from your food item search. And so we're going to add chicken boneless, fresh or frozen tenders. And then what it's going to show underneath once you add it is the number of purchase units on hand. And so let's say you have, 2 pounds of chicken on hand. So you could just type in 2. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add serving sizes. So let's say that all of the kids you're serving are 6 to 18-year-olds. So all of your portion sizes for chicken will be 2 ounces. And let's say we wanted to use the fried rice with chicken recipe, and we wanted to make sure that we have enough for 75 portions. So we're going to do that. And then once I added that in there, you can see that all of these numbers pop up over here under number of servings, exact quantity, and by purchase units. So what it does is it takes into account that you already have 2 purchase units on hand. it knows you need 75 servings of 2-ounce portion sizes. And so what that means is you need to have at least 12.9 pounds on hand. So that means with the 2 pounds on hand, you need to buy 11 more pounds of chicken boneless tenders. You can go ahead and add other items. Let's say we wanted to make sure we have the broccoli from our fried rice. And so we can say that we don't have any fresh broccoli on hand, but we wanted to make sure that each of our fried rice credits for a 1/4 cup of vegetables using the broccoli, and that we have enough for 75 servings. And so you can see that over here it tells you you need to buy 7.75 pounds of broccoli. And so when you're all ready to go, you can go to the shopping list at the very last tab on here, and it will let you know the number of servings, the serving size, the exact quantities. But what you really want to take a look at is under buy purchase units on the left-hand side. And that will show you, you need to buy 13 units or 13 pounds of chicken, 4 pounds of broccoli, 3.75 pounds of carrots. And what it does is it rounds up to the next 1/4 pound. If you have gallons, it'll round up to the next full gallon. And so what this tool actually is most useful for is if you wanted to buy milk. And so let's go to the milk component. We have to type in milk here, and we're going to add it here. So what if you are like a lot of different childcare centers and you serve milk to kids of all different age groups? You have 1 to 2-year-olds who need 4 ounces, you have 3 to 5-year-olds who need 6 ounces, and you have the 6 to 12 who needs the 8 ounces. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to add servings. And so let's pretend that you have, say, 10 gallons of milk ready and available. But you wanted to make sure that you have enough to serve all of the kids who are 1 to 2. So let's say you have 20 kids who are 1 to 2. And so we want to buy for the entire week. So for 5 days, twice 2 meals a day, you would need to have 20 times 5, that's 100, times 2 meals, so that would be 200. 200. And so you can see the numbers start changing up here under number of servings and by purchase units. And so let's say you have some 3 to 5-year-olds who need the 3/4 cup, the 6 ounces. And so same thing, you have 20 of those kids, 5 days a week, 2 meals a day. So that would be, you would need 200 servings for a week of that amount. And let's say you have 10 kids who are there after school who are 6 to 12. And so they need 1 cup each. And so you have 10 kids, 5 days a week. Let's say you only have 1 meal that you're serving them. So that would be 50 servings. And so adding it all up, it tells you that you would need to buy 9 units because you already have 10 units on hand. You would need a total of 18.75, so 9 more to buy. So once you're all done with all of that, when you go to your shopping list, it will also let you know that you need 9 total gallons of milk. So this food buying guide can be very helpful. So go to the food items search first, take a look and get familiar with the items. Once you're ready to credit your combination food items with your recipes, go and use the raw. And then after you're done with the raw, once you're ready to start buying items, you can go and use the food buying guide calculator. There is one thing that I did want to point out before we move back to our slides, and that is our appendices. On here, you notice that there are these appendices, and most of the time, a lot of these appendices won't be too helpful because what they are is written out instructions that were used back when this was a paper guide. So most of these will no longer be needed because you already know how to do most of this, or it's very intuitive from the electronic version. One appendices that you will want to use is Appendix E. And this is going to be the one for worksheet for calculating grain spread contributions for the types of food products in groups A through G. But what it does have is this conversion chart over here. And this is very helpful for people who bake from scratch, because what it does is converts volume of flours into weights. And then this way you can use that in method C of your raw. So in summary of everything that we discussed today, hopefully there might be one or two tools on the food buying guide that makes your life a little easier as you plan out your menus. Remember that it is our ultimate crediting reference for all child nutrition programs. This means that when we go out to look at your menus, recipes, or other supporting documentation, that we are using the food buying guide as the reference data. So we want you to become familiar with this tool. At the very least, look up ingredients you want to use in your menus. And just remember that if you want access to the raw and to save your lists and favorite items, you will need a login. It is free and easy to get. If those are not important tools to you, you can always log in as a guest as well. And so the food buying guide is a lot of things, but it's not magic. You still need to have a basic understanding of your meal pattern, including minimum serving sizes that are required for each age group you are serving. When it is used correctly, however, it does have the potential to save you some time and money by reducing waste and also the time that you are spending on creating your menus. So what we went over today included learning objectives, which is to understand what the food buying guide is and what functions it has. Next, we went over what food crediting means in child nutrition programs. And then we went over our food buying guide and looked at food item searches, Exhibit A grains tool, the recipe analysis workbook, the food buying guide calculator, and finally just a little bit of the appendices. And so thank you everybody for taking part in this training. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. If you do have more questions, feel free to reach out to your assigned child nutrition specialist. Thank you.